Hi everyone, it's Kelly and Emma. This is our final assignment presentation on Olivia. We have a lot to talk about today. We are first going to give you a rundown on Olivia's occupational profile so you can get to know her better. We are then going to explain the model and frame of reference we chose to guide us, as well as the results of our interview, screener, assessment, and observation. Finally, we're going to talk about the goals that we set for Olivia. So who is Olivia? Let's get to know her. Olivia is an 8-year-old girl who lives in a house with her mom, dad, and 2 younger siblings. She is super independent and is a great student. She loves reading, gymnastics, and playing games with her family and friends. Olivia is kind and considerate, generally liked by other kids, and is known to be well-behaved and follow the rules. So after we got to know Olivia a little bit better, Emma and I decided to use the Model of Human Occupation, or MOHO, as our guide for this case. Using this model, we focused on Olivia's volition, habituation, performance capacity, and environment, and how these aspects come into play with her occupational identity and performance. Diving into these specifics helped guide us in making sure we were planning goals and activities that made sense within her habituation and environment. Additionally, we wanted to make sure we understood her performance capacity so that we could create the just right challenge for her by keeping her strengths in mind, but also focusing on increasing skills that are difficult for her. Finally, we look to target her volition and environment to help strengthen her occupational identity and performance, making sure that there is motivation to partake in important occupations and that her environment supports her engagement in these given occupations. Alongside this model, we chose the behavioral frame of reference. After conducting our interview, we learned about a few of the challenges Olivia was having, such as cleaning up after herself, maintaining attention during a task, and forming close friendships. The behavioral frame of reference guided our clinical reasoning in creating goals and activities for Olivia that would allow her to develop new behaviors that could improve her engagement and participation in her occupations. We considered some of her preferred activities, such as gymnastics and baking, as reinforcement for activities that are challenging for her, such as cleaning up and engaging with peers. The first assessment we did was our interview, which was the Family Routines Exploration and Description, or the FRED. This interview allowed us to get a general look at a typical day for Olivia and her family, while also allowing the opportunity for concerns to be shared. Understanding a typical day for Olivia and her family was important because it allowed us to see what occupations she typically partakes in, resulting in a more individualized occupational therapy experience. Additionally, with concerns being able to be touched upon, this helped us understand what areas we might want to focus on for goals and activities. From this interview, we were able to find out that Olivia is a very independent child and is doing great when it comes to her occupational engagement. Her mom stated that she is able to complete most of her daily routine independently without reminders or cueing. We also found out about Olivia's strong interest in reading, which she typically does each morning before getting out of bed and every night before going to bed. The main thing Mom expressed that she would like to see is for Olivia to pick up her room and clean up after herself when she is done playing. Mom informed us on some strategies that she uses for these tasks, such as sometimes she will put the kids' items or toys in a pile and tell them that they need to clean up their pile of items that were left out. She also reported that they cleaned the basement together as a family to help the kids understand that everyone who partakes in creating a mess is also responsible for cleaning it up. Mom shared that she feels like she is able to get everything done that she needs to, but she isn't able to clean as much as she'd like, which is why getting Olivia to pick up after herself is really important. The next step was our screener. We went into our first meeting with the intention of using the Strengths and Difficulties Questionnaire, or the SDQ, unless something specific was brought up within the interview in which a different screener would be more appropriate. This wasn't the case, so we went ahead with the SDQ, which was answered by Mom. The results informed us that Olivia's strengths are her emotional regulation and her kindness and consideration for others. As I said before, she is well-behaved, confident, and generally liked by other children. We also found that her concentration sometimes wanders, and she might need a redirection or two when partaking in certain tasks. She is working on making good friends and sometimes prefers to play alone. Mom reported that Olivia has no difficulties in the areas of emotion, concentration, behavior, or being able to get along with others. The findings from the interview and screener allowed us to make a decision on which assessment and observation we were going to complete during our next virtual visit with the family. So for our observation, we chose to watch Olivia make oatmeal. From the interview, we learned that this is something Olivia does each morning, and we thought it would be valuable to see her engage in this activity within her natural context. We also thought that this would be a good activity to watch, as we can observe many different aspects, including a variety of performance skills. In our observation, Olivia was able to show us many of her motor and process skills, as well as challenge her ability to interact with others as she completed the task. We were able to see how independent Olivia is, as we observed her initiate, continue, and sequence the activity of making oatmeal with no cues from her mom. She also had out all the appropriate materials needed for the task. Her gross and fine motor skills looked functional, and she was able to properly hold and measure the water in a measuring cup, pour it into the bowl, tear open the oatmeal packet and pour it into the bowl, and then transport the bowl from the counter to the microwave. Olivia was also able to walk us through the steps of her making the oatmeal without any interruptions in the preparation process. When she took her oatmeal out of the microwave, she said that it looked like there was too much water. Her mom asked her how much she was supposed to put in, which she responded, half of a cup. And then her mom questioned, how much did you put in? Where she again responded, half of a cup. This interaction showed us that Olivia is able to recognize when something doesn't appear right within a typical routine, and is also able to recall and respond to questions on tasks she just performed. Lastly, onto our assessment. We chose the Child Occupational Self-Assessment, or the COSA. We chose this because we just wanted a general assessment since Olivia's mom did not have any specific areas of concern that she mentioned during the interview or screener. We wanted an assessment that would include the child's opinion of themselves, as she may have different perceptions on her own abilities than her mother did. Our findings demonstrated that Olivia is good at many of the tasks assessed on the COSA. Olivia is able to complete her ADLs, such as feeding, dressing, and bathing, independently with no issues. She's also able to recognize the importance of many of these basic tasks and even laughed when we asked how important dressing was, as she recognized that someone would need to get dressed in order to complete other occupations, such as going to school or playing with friends. Olivia is able to participate in school and with friends, both of which are important to her. Olivia noted that she has a little problem with making others understand her ideas, but she also noted that this wasn't important to her at the time. We found this interesting when she stated that sharing her ideas was not important to her, and if we had the chance, I think this is something we would want to ask her more about. The biggest takeaway from the COSA was that Olivia stated that she had a little problem with keeping her mind on what she was doing, and rated this as being something that is important to her. Later, when asked about problems she had, she again stated that she has trouble not getting distracted during tasks. This was also something we heard from her mother during our initial interview and screener, so we noted this as definitely being an area of interest that we should focus on. One other issue Olivia mentioned was that she has trouble cleaning her room, and when asked why, she said it was mostly because she did not want to and she did not know how to go about cleaning. When asked about strengths, Olivia mentioned her gymnastics abilities and playing games with her siblings and friends, which was something we kept in mind when designing activities so that they would interest Olivia and incorporate her strengths. All of these assessments guided us through the process of creating goals for Olivia. So our first goal for Olivia focuses on cleaning up her room. Our long-term goal is Olivia will independently follow all steps to clean up her room 1 time per day, at least 5 times per week, within 6 months. This goal is further broken down into 3 different short-term goals. The first short-term goal works on having Olivia and an adult create a visual reminder to put on her wall that will outline the steps of her cleaning her room. The second short-term goal works towards Olivia following about half of the steps of her visual schedule to clean her room. And the third short-term goal has Olivia cleaning up her room a couple times a week, which leads nicely into our long-term goal for her. Our second goal for Olivia focuses on her attention skills. It is Olivia will independently maintain attention on an academic task for 20 minutes on 4 out of 5 attempts within 6 months. This too is broken down into 3 short-term goals. The first one has Olivia and an adult setting up a desk space with all her materials in a distraction-free environment. The second short-term goal has Olivia maintaining attention on a preferred task for a shorter amount of time. And the third short-term goal focuses on having Olivia maintain attention on an academic task for a shorter amount of time with some cueing, which then leads us into our previously stated long-term goal. Our third and final goal looks at helping Olivia make good friends. It is Olivia will independently initiate inviting a friend over with assistance from an adult to reach out to the friend 5 times within 6 months. This is broken down further, having the first short-term goal be for Olivia to identify 3 different friends that she could invite over and report these to her mom or dad. The second short-term goal looks at having Olivia brainstorm ideas of activities and games her and these friends could do at her house. The third short-term goal has Olivia engaging with these friends in a public setting like the park or at the pool. This nicely leads into our chosen long-term goal. So this wraps up our presentation on Olivia. Here are our references, and thanks so much for listening, everyone.